50-year-old triple homicide cold case finally solved in 2022. A family of four was brutally killed in the little town of Boone, North Carolina, on February 3, 1972, leaving the neighborhood in shock and the case unresolved for decades. The family was ultimately able to find closure, and a dark period in the town's history was finally brought to light in 2022 because of the diligent efforts of the detectives. Join us as we explore the Durham family murders narrative and the enigma that persisted for 50 years. Our investigation today takes us to the lovely city of Boone, North Carolina, a charming mountain town tucked away in the midst of the Blue Ridge Mountains in the state's northwest. Outdoor enthusiasts and those who enjoy the outdoors frequently visit this location. The Appalachian State University, which is located in Boone, gives the city a fresh vibe. Explore the quaint downtown district, which is brimming with distinctive stores, eateries, and galleries. There are numerous chances for outdoor recreation in the area, including hiking, biking, skiing, and more. Boone is a captivating destination in North Carolina because of its natural beauty, rich history, and dynamic culture. Bartex, the lovely state of North Carolina, welcomed Bryce Durham, the son of Coyam Durham and Collie Devon Crabb Durham, on November 12, 1926. He was a man with various skills and life-changing experiences. Ralph L. Durham and Gail Durham Manelden, Bryce's siblings, played significant roles in his life. After the war, he taught for a year at Mount Pleasant School in Wilkes County after earning a degree in history and physical education from Appalachian State University. However, his career path took a different turn, and he ran the Mount Airy auto loan and sales finance business for 6 years before relocating to Boone, North Carolina. Despite having a diverse professional background, he spent the 13 years prior working for a home finance company, where he gained invaluable commercial and financial knowledge. Until his terrible and premature passing in 1972, Bryce Durham remained a devoted member of the Boone neighborhood. Virginia was the child of Calvin M. Church and Virginia Lusniette Eller Church. She was born on October 24, 1927. She was one of 5 siblings, the other 4 of whom played significant roles in her life as she grew up. Winnie Lavang Church, Elliot Dashia Church, Dovey Pierce Church Baker, and Rena Mozu Bumgarner Walsh. Bryce and Virginia were married in 1951, and Virginia gave birth to a daughter that year that they called Jenny Sue Durham. They welcomed a baby into the world on May 2, 1953, and named him Bobby Joe Durham. They were a close-knit, devoted family. Later, Jenny Sue married Troy Hall, the love of her life. The Durham family had discovered heaven in the midst of Boone, North Carolina's rugged mountains. The 3-person family, who had previously resided in Wilkes and Mount Airy, made the decision to start anew in Boone in 1969. Just off the 105 bypasses, their house at 187 Clyde Townsend Road was perched atop a narrow driveway. The Durhams found the ideal location, a haven from the stresses of life, just 4 miles away from Jenny Sue Hall and her husband. The weather was harsh on the eve of February 3, 1972, in the peaceful hamlet of Boone, North Carolina. Snowflakes danced erratically in the cold wind that swept through the trees. The Durham family took refuge from the bitter cold inside their house on Clyde Townsend Road. Owner of a Buick dealership, Bryce Durham and his wife Virginia, a librarian, had recently moved from Mount Airy, and their son Bobby had just started his first year at Appalachian State University. The family had a reputation for being hardworking, reclusive, and preferring seclusion, but as the wind howled outside, something evil was building inside, and a catastrophe was about to take place that would rock Boone to its very foundation. The Durham family had no idea that their lives were about to change drastically. Bryce and Virginia Durham were at home with their son Bobby on the evening of February 3, 1972, when a terrible catastrophe befell them. The Hall family was relaxed and pleased as they sat in their split-level home, but their tranquility was soon broken. Shattered by a terrifying phone call that left them shaking before anyone could make sense of the call, it ended abruptly, leaving Justin Troy Hall wondering if it was just a cruel joke. Virginia Durham's terrified voice on the other end of the line conveyed the urgency of the situation, her voice quivering as she whispered to her son-in-law, Justin Troy Hall, about several intruders who had broken into her home. Even though Hall had his reservations about the veracity of the call, his wife Jenny was terrified for the safety of her family. The drive up to the Durham's house was dangerous, so they swiftly made their way to the automobile, which obstinately refused to start. They were unable to travel on foot. Fortunately, Cecil Small, a neighbor and private investigator, volunteered to take them there. Hall and their neighbor Cecil entered the house, while Jenny stayed outside. Inside the residence, they discovered a chaotic situation. However, when they made their way to the ground floor bathroom, the real horror of the situation became apparent. The house had been plundered, and the sound of gushing water filled the air. The phone line had been torn from the wall, leaving the house silent with no other alternatives, and there in the small room lay the motionless and fully clothed bodies of Bryce, Bobby, and Virginia Durham in the bathtub, their grim heads submerged and the water still running. Around 11 p.m., Hall made a call to the police from his neighbor's flat to ask them to look into the grisly scene there. A rush of law enforcement officers showed up quickly, their flashing lights cutting through the pitch blackness of this winter night. Investigators entered the Durham house and peered at the once orderly interior that now appeared to have been destroyed by a storm. The officers' eyes then fell on the torn sofa set where the Durhams had been peacefully enjoying a late-night snack while watching their favorite TV show. Drawers had been pulled out, clothing was strewn across the floor, and pictures either hung at odd angles or lay shattered on the ground as if the perpetrators had been searching for something in a frenzied state. They had a sinking feeling in the pit of their stomachs as they approached the scene of the commotion and violence because they knew their inquiry would be drawn out and difficult. They noticed something odd on the kitchen table, a half-eaten baked chicken, which indicated that the crime happened while the Durhams were enjoying their meal together. At first, it appeared to be a simple robbery gone wrong, but the presence of untouched valuables raised suspicions. The television was still flickering, with 3 half-filled glasses and plates of partially eaten food left abandoned on a coffee table. A money bag filled to the brim with cash was left untouched, proving that the horrible crime was not committed for robbery's sake. Knowing they had to move quickly, the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation agents carefully moved the bodies to Chapel Hill for an autopsy. The outcomes were grim, but not unexpected. While the 2 men had been strangled and drowned as the Durham family murder inquiry got underway, Dr. Paige Hudson, the state medical examiner, certified that the cause of death for the Durham family was strangulation. The Durham home was invaded by agents from the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, who were determined to precisely and ruthlessly find the facts about the horrible killings. As the inquiry progressed, they searched every square inch of the property, meticulously chronicling each tip and piece of information they came across. By Saturday morning, the squad had expanded to 7 or 8 agents, but the investigation into the crime was just getting started. They utilized the knowledge of 2 eminent physicists from the State Crime Laboratory who joined the hunt late on Saturday night in Boone. They examined the data in depth, putting the pieces of the puzzle together and putting in many hours to figure out as the inquiry went on. The Durham killings enigma became clearer. Witnesses who had crucial information came forward. Just after 10:30 p.m. that fatal night, an eyewitness claimed to have seen a green and white SUV leave the Durham home, but the car vanished in an instant. A few miles away, the North Carolina Highway Patrol conducted a search for the SUV and discovered it on the side of the road. The windscreen was unharmed, and the engine was still running. Doors were tightly closed, and the windscreen wipers were smacking against the snow. The SUV was used by the murderers as an escape vehicle, and it was later discovered that Bryce Durham had borrowed the SUV from his dealership to travel home in hazardous weather. A bag of silver was discovered by the police as they searched the car, likely taken from the Durham home. Investigators anticipated that this important tip would help them find the criminals responsible for this horrible act. It was a difficult process to conduct the Durham murder investigations. The list of potential suspects was lengthy and meandering, with many detours along the way, and Justin Troy Hall, the estranged son-in-law of Bryce and Virginia Durham, was one of those under investigation by local enforcement. The investigation focused on a group of Asheville males who were detained and accused of the murders before being released for lack of proof. The precision of the knots used to bind the victims fueled rumors and whispers of a contract killing, but as the years passed, leads dried up. The Watauga County Sheriff's Department, the Boone Police Department, and the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation all worked tirelessly, but the trail grew colder with each passing day. It appeared as though the solutions to this horrifying crime would remain a mystery for all time. The Durham triple homicide case went unresolved for more than 45 years as leads ran dry and detectives struggled to fit the evidence together. But in 2019, a ray of hope appeared following a chat between a guy named Shane Burt and a sheriff's officer in Georgia. Billy Sunday Burt, a suspected killer, died in jail in 2017 while incarcerated for 3 murders he is believed to have committed in the 1970s. Billy Sunday Burt's son, Shane Burt, was his child. Shane Burt was providing research assistance when Burt revealed a shocking tale of murder and mayhem that occurred in the snowy mountains of North Carolina for an upcoming book by Phil Hudgens, A Tale of Murder and Mayhem, in which, according to Burt, his father had admitted to killing 3 people during a severe snowstorm and had narrowly escaped capture. The news sent shock waves through the White County Sheriff's Office, which immediately reached out to their counterparts in Watauga County. The Durham murders case is now being looked into again, which has given the victims' families and those who were killed new hope that justice will be served. Justice's wheels never stopped spinning. In the instance of the Durham killings, they turned gradually but in the direction of the truth. The Sheriff's Department conducted 3 separate sessions in September 2019, October 2020, and August 2021, spanning 2 years, each with a crucial piece of the puzzle in figuring out who was responsible for the heinous crimes. Investigators wasted no time in tracking down Billy Wayne Davis, a known associate of Billy Burt, who was already serving a life sentence in Georgia for his previous crimes. The truth was eventually revealed as a result of the evidence from these interviews and 2 additional sources being corroborated. The investigators were able to piece together a startling connection to a case from another state through rigorous evidence gathering and careful cross-referencing. The Dixie Mafia, a loosely organized group of criminals that had terrorized the Southeast with their violent crimes in the 1960s and 1970s, was engaged in the Fleming case of 1973. The Durham killing circumstances were identical to those of this case, and names started to arise connecting the two. Billy Wayne Davis, 81, a prisoner in Augusta, Georgia, is the sole surviving member of the infamous Dixie Mafia, according to authorities. He was a resident of that prison. He has been incarcerated since 1986 and is currently completing a life sentence for murder at the Augusta State Medical Prison in Georgia. Investigators claimed that he provided information about a hired hit in the mountains of North Carolina that went wrong during a significant snowfall. When the Durham family was murdered, Davis admitted to being the group's getaway driver while alleging that the other 3 men were responsible. Despite the breakthrough in the Durham family murder case in 2022, Billy Sunday Burt, Bobby Jean Gaddis, and Charles David Reed, who entered the house that tragic night, refused to divulge any additional information about them. The 4th suspect, 81-year-old Billy Wayne Davis, is presently serving a life sentence in a Georgia jail and is not expected to be released anytime soon, so justice may never be fully served. 3 of the 4 suspects have already passed away, and charges are not anticipated to be brought for the killings. For the relatives of the victims who have waited for answers for 5 long decades, the concept of justice being done may be little more than a mere fantasy. The mystery surrounding the individuals who ordered the hit only serves to heighten the sadness of this cold case, leaving the driving family members to wonder why their loved ones were singled out for death. Might follow them forever. Chris Laws, special agent in charge of the Northwestern District for the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, commended everyone for their hard work throughout the years, both professionals and people of the community. Jenny Durham, the last surviving member of the Durham family, thanked the dedicated people who had worked hard for 50 years to solve the case involving her family. This news conference took place in 2022. She praised the efforts put in by these detectives, who worked long hours and on weekends to crack the case. Jenny Durham was very grateful to Watauga County Sheriff Len Hagman, who never gave up on bringing closure to Jenny Durham's family. Wade Colvard, who works for the State Bureau of Investigation as a special agent, also got her thanks. Jenny Durham's friendship with Charles Whitman, a retired SBI special agent who continued to work on the case even after retirement, and Carolyn Johnson, captain of investigations for the Watauga County Sheriff's Office, meant the world to her and gave her hope during trying times. It shows how strong the human spirit can be in the face of problems that seem impossible to solve. Len Hagman, the sheriff of Watauga County, also expressed his gratitude to all the department's officers, agents, and investigators who had spent decades working on the case. The conclusion of the Durham case was a turning point for the community that had been affected by the sad events of 1972. The Watauga County Sheriff's Office praised the many people who contributed to solving the case and expressed gratitude for everyone's efforts in helping the Durham family get answers. It became a personal concern for former North Carolina Attorney General Rufus Edmondson. It crushed his heart to watch Bryce Durham's mother pass away without receiving justice. She had urged him to find the culprits. I didn't want to disappoint her. He claimed it was the mountain mystery for years and years, and Edmondson was angry he couldn't solve it on his own. However, the case has now been solved thanks to the hard work of Sheriff Hageman and his crew. Edmondson expressed his gratitude to the investigators who made it possible because it was a huge relief for him. Shane Burt, the son of one of the criminals, wishes to apologize to each and every one of his father Billy Sunday Burt's victims. Despite the fact that Billy Sunday Burt was a murderer who killed numerous people, Shane has no intention of hiding his horrible deeds. Instead, he desires to offer as many individuals with closure as he can. The fact that it took 50 years to solve the case demonstrates how dedicated and committed everyone involved was to seeing justice done. Despite the absence of resolution, the case's 50-year resolution offers some solace and the hope that future generations will be able to rest easy knowing that justice has been served, even if only partially. What do you think about our video? Please let us know in the comments area below. If you enjoyed this video and would want to hear from me again, please subscribe and turn on the notification before leaving. Thank you for watching us.